Beautiful girl, Miss Erica.
Yeah, I did.
Anton is tripping. He said, somebody give me the share button. Damn it, I'm lucky. I was like, oh my goodness. Now you can see why Amir looks at it. He looks at it and says, that's mama. We are functioning. Fred bringing us in this morning. And the Blue Bunny is here. No, I'm not talking the ice cream. Make sure y'all tag, share. I will be putting up the YouTube link here shortly. Make sure you drop over there and give us a thumbs up and hello. And we're glad you are here. This is our new region, better known as Lady Blue, and you are listening to The Covenant Connection, live on WMSKOnlineRadio.com, where talk radio just got better. Be blessed. All right. Good morning, and good morning. TGIF. Thank God it's Friday. Thank grace it's Friday. Thank goodness it's Friday. It's Good Friday. Yes, and welcome to Covenant Connection with us, your fun people. I am Arnie Major.
Good morning, family. It's your man, Victor Major.
And we are live right here on the home of Cheryl Underwood Radio, WMSKOnlineRadio.com, where talk radio just keeps getting better. Make sure you follow us on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow Covenant Connection on Instagram and Facebook. We are so happy to be here. God has graced us with another day. God has allowed us to get up in our right minds, clothed in our right minds. I gave my husband breakfast this morning. He was very happy. Okay. It's always the little things that mean so much. How you doing?
I'm wonderful. Thank you.
Yes, you can find. We're on Facebook Live. We're on YouTube. Make sure you go over there and check us out on YouTube. Give us a thumbs up. Let us know that you're there and that you're breathing. And the Blue Bunny is in the house. Yes, I have my rabbit ears. It is Easter weekend. We know it's Good Friday. We'd love to hear what it is that you're doing for Good Friday for your Easter weekend. And I just want to remind everybody, yeah, there's eggs and jelly beans and chocolate and pretty pastel dresses and nice suits and ties and all this other good stuff. But don't forget the reason for this weekend. Do not forget the acts that took place to keep you from further condemnation.
Yes, he got up, y'all.
Yeah, do not forget that one took nails and a spear in the side for you. So don't forget that. Other than that, babe, do you have a prayer or am I going to do this?
I have a prayer.
Oh, well, go ahead, Mr. Major.
I do. I found an excellent prayer. It's on the topic we're discussing today. We're discussing expectation. Okay. So this is a prayer of expectation. It says, Father God, I come before you today. I know that you love me and that you have a plan for my future. This is a plan of hope and goodness because you are a good God. As I wait expectantly upon you, may I never envy a sinner. May I never be jealous of how you are blessing others around me because I know that I am next. My time is coming. I will continue to walk in a worshipful fear of you on a daily basis. Even though things may not look the way I want them to in the natural, I believe that you have a beautiful future and a reward for me. May my hope and expectation grow more and more each day as I look to your salvation and deliverance. Continue to direct my mind, my heart, my soul into things that please you. May my feet never walk. May my feet ever walk in your path. I love you, Lord, and I wait in expectation on your fulfillment of your promises and all the prayers that I have prayed. In Jesus' name I pray.
Amen. And amen.
I like that.
Yes, that was beautiful. Good morning to everyone that is joining us on Facebook Live. Appreciate you. Thank you so much. Our topic for the day is expectation. Expectation. We've been talking in our marriage series, and I think we've tapped on just about on every subject that we could think of. And I know there's more because marriage entails a lot. Okay, but we've talked about the before. We've talked about friendship. We've talked about the way a man thinks versus the way a woman thinks, and we're going to dive back into that today with expectations. We've talked about the importance of the vows. We've talked about premarital counseling, the importance of premarital counseling. We've just touched on a number of subjects because we don't want folks to just think that marriage is just the party, the dress, the pictures, the fanfare, and then you forget that there's stuff to do afterwards, okay? In other words, be married and carry on the journey. So we want to just go ahead and just dive right into that because I don't want to waste no time on it personally. So when you get married, and this just popped in my mind yesterday because I was doing a little impromptu thing at a beauty school yesterday, but when you get married, people sometimes people tend to forget that there's life after the party. Am I right?
You're right.
You put the wedding dress away, you put everything away, and then you roll over and you wake up next to this person that you just spent the last 24 hours with partying, drinking, if you did all of that. You may be on your honeymoon, you may not be on your honeymoon, I don't know what the case may be. But you wake up and you're looking at the fact that you're getting ready to start on a new journey. And what does that journey entail? What steps have you taken? I know for me and my husband, we've been friends since ever. We've been married almost 3 years this year, and they go by quickly. Believe it or not, they go by quickly. Did you expect any of the things that we have gone through in the past 3 years at all? Some things are going to happen because that's life, but other things, did you expect any of the other things that we have experienced so
far? And I can say yes, but I really tried to go in without expectation. I tried to go in with a clean slate because you hear so many people talk about their marriages and the things to expect and that kind of thing. And I tried to throw that out of my mind. It's like many people in dealing with relationships, they'll try to share their experiences and the things they've gone through and what worked for them and didn't work for them.
Mm-hmm.
And you really can't. You can look at those things. You can take and glean from what it is that they have shared, but you're still talking about a different individual, different time, different experiences, different parents. They grew up with that kind of thing. So there's never going to be an exact science to even what people may give you, about ideas about marriage or life and those types of things. So when I went in, there were things that I expected, again, because we've known each other so long, and there are things that I, foresaw, some issues I foresaw, or the expectations of, us continuing, our friendship and just allowing it to continue to grow. But for the most part, I tried to not go in it with any preconceived thoughts or ideas, because I know it's too easy to set yourself up for failure or unhappiness, expecting something that, and if it doesn't happen, then there's disappointment. So I try not to.
Okay, you said something that was key there. We try to draw from, or we hear from others that have been married for a while. I know my grandparents on my dad's side were married for 60 plus years. My mom's parents were married for 50 plus years. I have aunts and uncles that are looking at 25, 35, 45 years of marriage. I know as growing up, I would admire my grandparents and the longevity of their marriage, and when you ask them, they don't give you no long, drawn out explanation. They give you one straight, simple answer. And I think that's always been amazing how they can give you one simple answer. And I mean, if I were to talk to my grandpa today, my grandpa would say, listen, That's basically what he was saying. Listen, obviously, grandma had something to say. He wasn't going to sit up there and just listen. Okay? And they could finish each other's sentences. It's amazing. But I think the most beautiful thing about their marriage is that they knew when each other was in a state that was not normal. Okay, so in other words, because my grandma had several strokes and being in a nursing home, she felt when her husband left, when he transitioned. Nobody had to tell her.
Right.
Okay, and it was kind of that same thing with grandpa when grandpa had when grandma had to be taken to and they didn't want him to see her in the state that she was in. Okay, he just knew. There was just that nonverbal communication. So what was their expectation of each other? I guess that I can't say what their expectation was of each other except for support. Because we talked about that being, support and respect, and we talked about communication and all those other things. But that's what I saw there. What did you see with your parents in their marriage? What was one thing that they would probably tell you about their marriage?
And my father, me being the youngest of five, I spent a lot of time with my father. And my father, he didn't talk a whole lot about expectations per se. I knew there were things, from an old school man's thought, how things are supposed to be or should be, or what a man's position is or what a woman's position is, that kind of thing. But I think over the years, you learn to grow toward each other. You learn to grow to know each other. So I think that's probably one of the biggest things that he shared about his knowledge of himself and what he's grown to know about their marriage.
Okay.
And that talked about again that growth process.
Okay.
Just kind of growing together. And he shared a lot of wisdom about what he's learned about women and those type of things. And all of them weren't exact. Weren't a lot of exact sciences. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and I get mine from asking a lot of questions. I share from experiences, other people's experiences, because I have no problem asking people questions.
Right.
We were talking about that last night. Because I was telling you about one of my coworkers that I asked about certain situations. Because I like to hear what people think and feel, or what they've experienced, or how they've gone through, some of the same things that I've gone through.
Right. And you just explained yourself, because that, I can see that coming from your father, and then I see that in you all the time. I wanted us to give a personal viewpoint of expectation before we dive into what everybody else, Christian wise and psychological wise and all feel about expectation, because, and I'm going to say this, because a lot of the things that we're talking about right now, we haven't even mentioned the half. We haven't even touched the tip of the iceberg of expectations for marriage, okay? So before we go to commercial break, I'm going to bring up challenges that most couples face during the first 3 to 5 years of marriage. Now, okay? And there's a list here.
And you're going to do that before the break?
Yes, I'm going to do that before the break, okay? Finances. Relating to the opposite sex. Loneliness, which is interesting. In-laws. I didn't have no problem with my in-laws. Thank you very much. Romance and affection. Spiritual growth together. Roles of the husband and wife. Communication. Values and lifestyle choices. Trials and suffering. Where to attend church. And I know we've had that discussion before. Differences, including male, female, background, religious training, regional, all that good stuff. Travel, debt, children, entertainment. Weekends, traditions, how to handle holidays, celebrations, birthdays, all of that. Resolving conflict, work and career, vacations, priorities, your schedule, sexual intimacy, roles of the mother and father, and selfishness. They're saying that these are challenges in marriage. And they're among those are the great expectations of marriage. These are things that you deal with within your marriage. We all know communication is huge. We all know that it's part of it. You cannot grow without communication and understanding. You cannot grow without actively listening to your partner. You cannot expect your partner to know every last little thing about you if you don't open your mouth. That is one thing that I can just continue to just push, because a man does not know everything about a woman just because he's dated other women before you. You are different. You are what he is looking to spend the rest of his life with. So therefore, you got to teach him about yourself. You got to teach him what it is that makes you tick, what you like, what you don't like, what you want to hear, what you don't want to hear. And sometimes he'll push the button and tell you what you don't want to hear anyway. Okay? And you have to be willing to work with that. Now, the interesting thing is that it says here, you'll know you understand your spouse when you can verbally express your mate's actual needs and desires, and he or she agrees with that expression. Okay, communication is vital to clarifying your needs. The Bible urges husbands to live with their wives in an understanding way. 1 Peter 3:7. Guys, fellas, men, that means that you have to seek to understand. And ladies, girls, my girls, that means you have to help him to understand. Didn't I just say that? Mm-hmm. Okay. You got to open your mouth. You can't walk in expecting, well, you're a man. Aren't you supposed to know what to do? No, you are a completely different creature. He can't tweak your buttons the way he tweaks somebody else's buttons. And I'm sorry, I'm going to go there.
Wait a minute.
Because I'm talking about who you dated or who you may have been with before. They reacted to him completely different from the way you may react to him. Okay? In other words, that refers to the walk a mile in my shoes statement. In order to develop God's perspective of your mate, you may need to do, excuse our phones, you may need to do just that. Remember, God selected your spouse for you. Accept his provision, knowing that he has an agenda for your life through unmet expectations. How's that for an opener? Okay.
I like that.
Okay, and the other thing is that if when you have that mate, you tell your mate your hopes, your dreams, your the things that you want that you see in the future. And my husband and I have talked about this, is not to give up on your dreams. I support my husband's dreams, and I know my husband sees mine flat out. He's seen mine since get-go, okay? So all of the things you imagine in your marriage to be may not come true. God may have a new dream for you to live together. So you got to talk about your dreams together and then dream together. Don't just dream separate. Bring those dreams together, okay? How can you incorporate what you're doing to help further what it is that your spouse may be doing? And those are the kicker for those 25 great expectations for your marriage. Want to chime in on that? But before you chime in, there are also unrealistic expectations. We'll get back into that when we come back. But go ahead, chime in. I know I said a lot.
You said a lot, and I'm not even sure where to begin on that. But where you started off again, and I had a list as well of some items and things of why marriages failed, and those expectations are unrealistic expectations are part of one of those reasons why marriages fail. But I have a list of things that I just wanted to throw them out there as well. And we've talked about some of these things. First is marrying for the wrong reason, and I think we all have seen people have done that. Lack of identity, knowing who you are before getting into a relationship with somebody else. You don't know yourself. That's a recipe for failure. Becoming lost in the roles, the identity roles of who the husband or the man is supposed to be, or the man or the woman. Absolutely. That's why I saw some things in common. Having a shared vision of success, which is one thing you kind of touched on as well. Unmet expectations. That's, again, you have an idea of things that are supposed to be, and when those things aren't met, again, sometimes the disappointment from that is really, it's hard to overcome, to deal with. finances, as we mentioned, um, literally being out of touch, not being in the present moment,
Right.
um, different priorities and interests.
Okay.
And that's some things that we talked about as well,
Yes.
trying to be on the same page as far as priorities. So we, again, as we talked about, the communication that's why the communication is so important. You know, to be on the same page as far as priority and interest, you have to be able to communicate these things to come to some type of, agreement. Um, Inability to solve conflict,
Okay.
which again, a lot of people don't have a clue about how to resolve conflict. They have their ways of dealing with conflict, but
Right.
not how to solve conflict,
Right.
particularly.
Right.
Infidelity, which again is a big one. Lack of communication, as we talked about. Arguing, and the last one that I just kind of threw in there is abuse.
Okay.
And that will definitely
That will spark a whole lot of things.
Definitely, doom with marriage,
Wow.
or any type of relationship.
Okay. You hit on some really good points there. A lot of them were similar to what I had mentioned, but yeah, you hit on a lot of very good points there because and a few that that didn't even cross my mind, but now it's crossed my mind as you said it. So yeah, I bet you a lot of people don't think about the last one that you said.
Yeah,
They don't.
No, and especially if they have never experienced.
But you know what it is that people, when you say abuse to people, people have a one-track mind when it comes to that. And abuse being just physical.
Right, yeah, no.
And we have to remember abuse comes in many shapes and forms. In spiritual, financial, emotional,
physical,
mental, all of that.
Yeah.
So abuse can take on many shapes and forms.
Verbal is the
verbal is the biggie.
Really,
yes,
is a
verbal
huge one.
But you know what? We're going to dive right on in that. When we come back from break, I do want to come back. When we come back from break, we're going to, talk to you about some of the things that are going on with WMSK and with Covenant Connection and with Lady Blue. And then in our last hour, we're going to dive into these topics. And I want to start off our last hour about the question that needs to be asked is, do you have unrealistic expectations of your marriage? And there's a few points that I want to bring in.
I got one thing I did want to share.
Okay. Go ahead.
My father shared, the woman is always right. That's the expectation. He told me that. He always expect that.
Okay. In other words, listen. Okay. Anyway, we're going to come back. We're going to go pay some bills. We're going to come back and give you some of the stuff that WMSK is dealing with right now. And we hope you are following us on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever you are. Just come on back. This is the home of Cheryl Underwood Radio and Covenant Connection, WMSKOnlineRadio.com, where
talk radio just got better.
Okie dokie, we'll be right back.
Everybody is a distraction.
Why? Because they're cute. They're cute. I have to put my Easter on somehow. Nobody's going to see my Easter ears. I'll be wearing them at work this weekend too.
I want to go to church, but I also know that I got to get out really early tomorrow. Or if I don't know,
Security Boulevard, Baltimore, Maryland 21644. Men, women, and kids, tomorrow to serve you. Over 7 days a week for your position. Please contact 410-944-CUT. That's 410-944-5889. Please tell them WMSKOnlineRadio.com. Oh my goodness.
Yeah, that's, those why marriages fail and what you talked about, those were things I definitely wanted to touch on from the start. 'Cause where we left off was how to succeed and I kind of wanted to hit both of those, but as we didn't have time to hit the failure and successes last week, because we kind of run out of time, but I definitely wanted to hit that. Maybe those expectations really are big. They're huge.
Yeah.
You know, successful stuff. But yeah, I got some tips on managing expectations.
Did you see the video I shared with you yesterday of Leandra Johnson?
Yeah, I did. Was that new or?
Yeah, apparently that's recent.
Okay. Yeah, I said, definitely in prayer for her because again, she has an anointed voice, man, that she featured. There's just so much conviction and confusion again, but that's what the enemy does. And I think, because of some of the stuff and expectations, she felt almost unworthy to an extent.
Right.
And I think that was part of her struggle with
Unworthy of
God
her
and
gift.
relationships. Yeah, God and his relationship. Some Brazilian hair.
No, I'm happy with mine.
WMSKOnRadio.com are those of the guests, hosts, and callers, and not necessarily those of the station, its management, hosts, or advertisers. The show was founded on WMSKOnRadio.com, can't promote any lifestyle, belief, religion, political affiliation, or personal practice. These shows are for entertainment only. Thanks for listening. Have you written a book and want to get it published? Then call Page Publishing ASAP. We're looking for authors of all types of books. And unlike most publishers, Page Publishing will take the time to review each and every book submitted to us. And we'll give you our feedback. And if you like what we read, we will get your book into bookstores and for sale online at Amazon, the Apple iTunes Store, Barnes & Noble, and other outlets. We handle everything: editing, cover design, copyright protection, printing, and distribution. So if you read a novel, children's book, cookbook, inspirational work, poetry, or a biography and want to get it published, call Page Publishing now for your free author submission kit. Your road to fame and fortune could very well start with this simple phone call. Call now, 800-219-8262, 800-219-8262, 800-219-8262.
No one can enter the kingdom of heaven except through the Catholic Church, says the Baptist. Wow. Just wow. All right, party people. We are back. We are live. This is Covenant Connection right here, WMSKOnlineRadio.com, where talk radio just keeps getting better. Yes, make sure you are following on Instagram and Twitter, and make sure you're following us on Instagram and Facebook. Listen, if you had purchased tickets for Kiki Wyatt Live, the date has been moved to June 15th. June 15th for Kiki Wyatt Live at Charm, Baltimore, 407 East Saratoga Street, right here in Baltimore. You can go to Eventbrite to get tickets. Kiki will be accompanied by Rose Gold Experience Band. So if you are a Kiki Wyatt fan, make sure that you get on over there, get your tickets, and mark your calendar for June 15th. All right. If you are a wine connoisseur, Fruits of Life Wine Events presents Wines of the World, The Experience. That is happening on April 28th, which is a Sunday, 4 p.m. to 9 p.m. And a portion of the proceeds to benefit Break the Cycle Incorporated. Featured wine countries will be Italy and Spain. There are 2 levels of seating and arrangements. You have the $50 donation, and then you have the $5.75, which will take care of groups of 10, giving them a souvenir wine glass, wine tasting, light fare, and the $50 donation will get open seating, souvenir wine glass, and wine tasting and light fare. Live music by We The Fix and Jen Violin. DJ Corey Banks, special guest speakers will also be on hand. You can get tickets online at winesoftheworldexperience.eventbrite.com. You can also go to Fetish for Hair Salon at 8117 Hartford Road and see Cherie, DMV Wine Lady, for your tickets. So if you are a wine connoisseur, make sure you hit that up. Also, make sure you get Urban Reality News right in your hand. State versus Us magazine, highlighting high-profile cases, wrongfully convicted stories, corruption in the prison system and police department, success stories of former inmates, entertainment, and more. You can get your copy today at stateversususmag.com. That's stateversusmag.com. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. And if you have a story to tell, want ad space, or want a feature, you can email us at stateversususmag@gmail.com. That's stateversususmag@gmail.com. And just to let you know, there are 3 issues. Issue number 4, you can pre-order, but the first issue has the founder and CEO of WMSK Online Radio, Ms. Connoisseur herself, right on the cover. Boss Brand, written by yours truly, Lady Blue. Second issue has my song, The New York General, on the cover, with hot stories in there on Eddie Conway, the former Black Panther, Akeem Browder, the brother of Khalif Browder, and many other stories that are in that issue. The third issue is a dual cover with Lunel, the comedian, and Wallow 267 on the other side. And there's some hot stories in that issue. Yours truly, with the help of Ms. Connoisseur, wrote the article for DMC. That's Daryl McDaniels of Run DMC. That was a fun time being able to put that together. And there's also some other great interviews that are in this magazine, so you want to check that out. Issue number 4, which you can pre-order by going to the website, has the one and the only Freeway Ricky Ross on the cover. The one, the only, the original Freeway Ricky Ross on the cover. And there are some other exciting stories that are in there. I'm not going to give any of them away because I don't type all of them. So I'm not going to give any away, but you want to pre-order your copy. Get it in there. Let Ms. Connoisseur know that you heard it on Covenant Connection. You heard it on WMSK. Let's get the word out and get this rocking because this magazine is hot. She is in the process and in the middle of a coast-to-coast tour right now. She's in LA right now doing her thing in LA. And I'm telling you, this magazine is being just grabbed and soaked up in every place she puts her foot in. Okay, it's in Philly. It's in New York. It is here. It is in Canada. It is in LA. It's all over. So just get you your copy and don't miss out. And I do want to remind everybody, Mother's Day is around the corner. Easter's already here. Mother's Day is around the corner. If you have not ordered your Mother's Day gifts yet, or you need a little help putting something together for mom, auntie, grandma, your favorite sister, your favorite cousin, your coworker, whoever it is that's a mom, if you need a little help putting something together, come on over and discover your Beautiful Blue. At Beautiful Blue, we help empower you from the inside out, and we also have great Mother's Day packages. You can construct put together your own, or you can leave it all to me and tell me what you want, and I will put together the perfect Mother's Day gift for you. Why not give her something that will make sure you get some brownie points, okay, and cherish a smile that you will love forever. So come on over, discover your Beautiful Blue. You can connect with me at 443-579-5401. That's 443-579-5401. You can go to my website and do it all yourself if that's what you choose to do at www.marykay.com/amajor2019. That's A-Major 2019. Or you can go on over to Facebook and look for Beautiful Blue and connect with me there. Send me a direct message and we will work together to get you the perfect Mother's Day gift package. Okay, and even just treat it. Okay, hand lotion, body care, skin care, perfume. If you know she loves lipstick and mascara, come on over. We got all of that, okay? Just give her something that you know she's going to love. And I want to reiterate also, summer around the corner too. So you need to get that beach body ready. You need to get those summer dresses are coming out. We need to get all of that ready, ladies. So I have packages, beach body packages. I got skincare packages. I got lotion. I got some tips and tricks for you all. So come on over and discover your Beautiful Blue. WMSK does have a lot of things that are going on. May 18th from 10:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. is Be More Lit, LIYT conference that's happening at the UA House of Fayette Living Classrooms, 1100 East Fayette Street in Baltimore, Maryland. There's going to be workshops, activities, guest speakers, live performances. It's for ages 8 through 25. There's going to be a free bag lunch and free registration. You can get tickets on Eventbrite and know that this is a 501c3 approved event. Okay, WMSK is one of the sponsors of this event, and it's going to be a hot event. We know that recently they had it was this past weekend, it was PNB Rock, Young Moose, and Trudeau. Apparently that was a very high time in music, okay? So you want to make sure that if you need anything in regards to what's going on, if you have an event, if you have any of those things that are happening right now, get it on over to WMSK. You can send it on over to Lady Blue. If you have a church event, if you have anything that is going on in your ministry, with your choir, anything like that, you can send it to Covenant Connection and we will put it on our page. We will share it on our Instagram. We will let the world know what you got going on in your church, in your community, with your ministry. And I think that's a really big thing. We need the churches to know that there's another outlet for them to use to get to an audience that they haven't reached yet. Okay. And, we have a high time doing it too. We love posting those things. We just recently posted for our own church LS Revival Center for their Easter celebration coming up on Sunday. So if you have an Easter celebration, send us your flyer. We will gladly post it up on the Covenant Connection page. And shout out to Pastor Lee and the LS Revival Center group. There is a service that's happening tonight at 7:30 at LS Revival Center. So go on over to Covenant Connections page on Facebook. Check it out, get your information, and I hope to see you there. Okay? I do hope to see you there. Honey, you got anything happening we need to know about?
No, I don't have anything in particular. So thank you for asking.
No problem. I had to get my little bit of sippy sip in there. I know there's a lot of events that are going on around Baltimore. You can check Eventbrite. You can check the Baltimore Sun. You can check the LadyBlue1.com page because the event calendar has some things that are going on. There's a few other places that I wanted to shout out, but I do want to shout out real quick. We try to squeeze in the churches at the end, but I'm going to squeeze in the churches right now. Okay. So shout out to Shift Nation out there in Alexandria, Virginia with Pastor Kevin McNicky. Excuse me, couldn't get that out. To Harvest Assembly Baptist Church in Alexandria, Virginia with Pastor Abrams, let me get that straight. Pastor Abrams, shout out to that church. Shout out to CRL Ministries, Church of the Redeemed of the Lord right here in Baltimore. Shout out to that church family. Who else we got?
Alpha Street Baptist.
Okay, Alfred Street Baptist Church, yes. Yes. Yes, there's
and I'm sorry, I have one thing. You asked me if I had some going, but somebody gave me a ticket today, yesterday, day before yesterday. Greater Grace Church here in Baltimore, Maryland is having a Easter event, a kind of play that they have going on.
Okay.
It looks like it's going to be really, really interesting.
Okay.
Huge church, man. And we've been there. That's the big church that's over there by.
We're running the streets of Baltimore
Yeah.
right now. But it's over there. But yeah, there's a lot of Easter celebrations that are going on. There's a lot of Easter egg hunts that are going on. There's baskets that are being given out. There's a lot of Easter celebration going on. And we know people are going to be cooking food. People are going to be going to restaurants. People are going to be zipping all over the place in this city.
I mean, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead.
But for those who haven't watched The Passion of Christ, I highly recommend that one, especially during this Holy Week at this time on this particular day.
Yes.
To check out The Passion of Christ.
Watch The Passion.
It's a visual like you cannot imagine of what Christ
you will feel on that
went
one.
through,
It's not just we all are going to watch the 10 Commandments. That's just going to happen. Okay. 10 Commandments is just going to happen. But watch The Passion of the Christ. That is one movie that will have you feeling some type of way by the time you get to the end. And if you don't react, if something does not react within you, you haven't really watched the movie. You really have not. I think that's one that was directed by Mel Gibson, right? And awesome work. Awesome work. I don't care where his mental state is right now, but Mel Gibson did some awesome work with this, with the cinematography, with the actors. The actors are just all in, learning the language, learning what needed to be said and how to say it and how to put the emotion to it. It's just one of those that will make you feel. I know when I watch it, I have a hard time watching the nailing to the cross. Yeah. And the when his mother has to just stand by and watch and she can't do anything. That just hurts me to my core. I have a hard time watching it, but I watch it. And then when you hear the hammer fall on the nails, it makes you flinch. It literally makes you flinch.
There will definitely be a physical response in this movie because I know the first time I watched it, being some of it, I believe it was in Latin, whatever language it was in, there was some subtitle parts of it, and it was, even without being able to read it quickly enough to kind of know what was going on and to visually see.
Yeah.
And again, my body had a physical reaction to that, because especially this time of year or this day, and coming up on Resurrection Sunday, think about what Christ went through, and I've seen how they done the physical breakdown of what happens to the body during the you know, raising of him on that cross, him hanging him on that cross, and all he went through, what the body goes through, and it tears at my soul to see what he went through. But it's sad, but it makes me happy to understand what Christ went through, that he loved us so much, and God loved us so much to allow his son to go through that and take all of that on for me, for us.
Right.
So it does. It evokes a physical response from me, and I can't help but tear up.
Yeah.
It
Doesn't matter how, it's like Color Purple. It doesn't matter how many times you watch it, something in that movie is gonna make you cry. I know it's color. I won't even tell you what the scene is for me in Color Purple, but anyway, it's the same. It's a physical. It's a spiritual experience. Even if you've watched it before, you still are going to have reactions to it one way or the other. And I do want to make sure before I forget, because I told her that we would. Lisa, if you are listening, Lisa, we are lifting up Aunt Belle in prayer because Aunt Belle fell and she's having surgery for a shattered hip, not a broken hip, but a shattered hip. So I can't even begin to imagine what that recovery period is going to be like. So Aunt Dell, we have you lifted up in prayer. We have placed that at the altar. So just so that you know that we keep family in mind. Okay, we keep them. I want to say before we go to a real quick commercial break, we as a family were kind of tasked by your mom.
Yeah, we
were tasked by your mom, and I have to say that since that day, we have all upheld that.
Yeah.
We have all upheld that. So, she wanted us to make sure that, God was the center focus, that we believe, we love, we keep in contact. We're constantly doing family things. There's, just celebrating each other and having fun and laughing and joking and talking. So, Mama Major, we already know you're listening, but the point of the matter is that we're carrying on her wish that she had for her family. And, I'm so glad to be a part of that. So glad to be a part of that. But we're going to go and pay the piper. And then we're going to come back and dive right back into our topic.
Right.
So y'all get your pen, your pad, your paper, your pencil, your crayon, whatever it is you're writing with. And come on back and join us because we're going to talk about expectations, okay? This is Covenant Connection with the Majors live right here on WMSKOnlineRadio.com, home of Cheryl Underwood Radio, where
Talk Radio just got started.
Yes, we'll be right back.
Talk Radio make me go to the back.
No, that's the water.
I'm not sure.
This is our religion. What are you going to do with your old car? You can try selling it. You could junk it, or you could donate it to Heritage for the Blind. It's totally for free, and your donation is guaranteed. Just call 1-800-639-8620. Heritage for the Blind accepts cars, vans, trucks, and boats. It doesn't matter if the vehicle runs or not. It'll be towed away for free, and we'll be supporting those that need help. Heritage for the Blind is a non-profit organization that helps the visually impaired live fuller lives. Call right now to donate your car. And as a special thank you for calling, you'll receive a free 3-day vacation voucher to many exciting locations. Call Heritage for the Blind right now. Call 1-800-639-8620. And your vehicle is towed away for free. Plus, you'll get a free vacation voucher. Call now, 1-800-639-8620. That's 1-800-639-8620. Are you being audited and you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you But you can stop these IRS actions. The tax doctor will fight for you using industry secrets that can stop any IRS actions through limiting penalties and
Moravia Park Road.
Okay.
if you owe $10,000 or more in taxes, call the tax doctor now for a free IRS audit emergency review. 800-263-2610. That's 800-263-2610.
John Jenkins Church, they're doing something as well. First Baptist of Glenarden, they're doing
Okay.
that play.
Hello. We was just having a discussion. Welcome back to Covenant Connection, right here on the home of Cheryl Underwood Radio, WMSKOnlineradio.com, where talk radio just keeps getting better. We are talking about expectations in marriage. Expectations. And I said before we dove into the points that you brought up, Hun, I wanted to talk about the question that I found that was asked: do you have any unrealistic expectations in marriage? Okay, so it says there are two observations to make about marriages. First, none could be a totally bad marriage. Okay, no one no one could walk out. No one has been unfaithful yet. No one, there's been no abuse or violence. But if you look at the examples that's given on this webpage that I'm on, the common denominator is that none was experiencing what God had in mind when He created their union in the first place. Okay, so there was no communication. There was no asking. There was no talk. There was no forethought about the other person. It was just, you either do this or you don't. That's basically what it was. And I didn't want to read all of the stories because then we'd be here forever. Okay. All of them were surprised to find out what they had to face as a couple. Okay. And it's not what they expected. All right. So they came in with an agenda, like you were saying, you want to come in without any preconception. Okay. And the second thing about this is that everything that each couple faces is predicted by command, principle, proposition, or perspective in the Bible. So the Bible has a lot to do with it when it comes to marriage. It says if they would have approached the Bible as a wonderful window to their marriage, they would have known what to expect and not been surprised at what came their way. So, some wisdom perspectives that Scripture gives us that enable us to have realistic expectations for our marriage. What are they? Okay. The first one being, you are conducting your marriage in a fallen world. We all face the same thing. Our marriages live in the middle of a world that does not function as God intended. I don't think I need to say anything else besides that.
That's true.
But somehow, some way, your marriage is touched every day by the brokenness of the world. Maybe it simply has to do with the necessity of living with low-grade hassles of a broken world, or maybe you're facing major issues that have altered the course of your life in your marriage. But one thing is for sure, you will not escape the environment in which God has chosen you to live. I'm going to stop right there because there's more to that. That says a lot of being married in the world we live in today, because there's a whole lot that is going on. Even when you sit down and just have a discussion, I know when my husband and I have a discussion about what we see on the news, what's been going on lately, the things that we may see or hear when we're at work or see on our way to and from work. Those things can have an effect because you're either thinking about it, you're wondering what could have been different. Should I step in? Should I, do I want to share this with my significant other? Do I not want to talk about it? So many things of that, those, days have affected, either greatly or minimally in your marriage. And some of them, they may make no sense, but we understand that there's a meaning and a purpose for everything that we see because we know our steps are ordered. The path that we're on are the things that we're supposed to be experiencing in this life. Continue on. You are a sinner married to a sinner. Hello.
Yeah.
It says here, and I quote, you and I just don't get to be married to someone perfect. It seems true when you read it, but even though it seems obvious, many people get married with the unrealistic expectation about who they are marrying. They want that other to be the perfect partner. Here is the point. You both bring something into the marriage that is destructive to what a marriage needs and must do. That thing is called sin. Most of the troubles we face in marriage are not intentional or personal. In most marriage situations, you do not face difficulty because your spouse intentionally did something to make your life difficult. There are moments of anger that may happen, but most often what is really happening is that your life is being affected by the sin, weakness, and failure of the person you are living with.
Wow.
So if your wife is having a bad day, that bad day will splash up on you in some way. And if your husband is angry with his job, there's a good possibility he may bring that anger home with him. Now, to tack on to that, unless you figured out how to deal with that, okay? Because in the jobs that we have, we can bring our job home. Trust me.
Oh,
But you know what? When he turns off the bus and when I log out of the radio, I do not bring that home unless I have one juicy story that I want to tell. But other than that, no, I'm not bringing it home. Third, God is faithful, powerful, and willing. There is one more reality that you have to include as you are trying to look at your marriage as realistically as possible. Not only must you consider the fallenness of the world you live in and the fact that you both are less than perfect, but you must also remember that you are not alone in your struggle. Boom. Okay, and you can reference that to Acts 17:27, because the Bible says that God is near, so near that in your moment of need you can reach out and touch him because he is not far from each of us.
I love that.
Okay, so what did you expect? Because God is faithful, powerful, and willing. Can you be realistic and hopeful about your marriage at the very same time? Realistic expectations are not about hope without honesty, and they are not about honesty without hope. Realism is found at the intersection of the unabashed honesty and uncompromising hope. God's word and God's grace makes both possible in marriage. I'm going to share that on our page because when I found this just kind of, opened up, we already have understand the majority of this.
Right.
But the fact that it incorporated the world we live in, the fact that you've got to look at each other not in the light of perfection, but in the light of we both are falling short of the glory of God.
Absolutely.
So therefore, we've got to look at that person. When you put a person in a perfect perspective and they don't live up to that, not only do you diminish them in your eyes, but you diminish yourself because you put yourself in that situation of thinking that they're perfect.
Absolutely. I mean, and I've seen a lot of people in relationships who expect perfection but don't give perfection. They expect everything to be perfect for them, to be pleasing to them, to make them happy, but they don't realize that, in that what you were talking about looks at it in the big picture, big picture scenario again, because you're looking at things from a God perspective, a realistic situation, us being, fallen and living in a fallen world, and also, bringing into effect the enemy, because the enemy is there to steal, kill, and destroy. So anything that God has put together and God has designed marriage, put together marriages, the enemy wants to destroy and break up. So any and everything, if you don't keep your eyes on the big picture, don't keep your eyes on the prize, it is so easy to fall off and look, unrealistically at people and your marriage, and have unrealistic expectations of what this other person is or should be.
Right.
And then, have that understanding and forgiveness, because that's a huge part of that, is being understanding and forgiving in that sense.
I agree. Yes, I agree. And I mean, I found several things in here, but another thing that says, you can redefine your expectations within a marriage. It doesn't always have to be the gloom and doom when you open your door, but because we're going to experience hurt, we're going to experience frustration, we're going to experience, that moment of, huh? Why did you do? What are you, nuts? Okay, we're going to experience that where we think we're right and they're wrong, and vice versa. It goes through that, but again, that incorporates that third strand that we always talk about. When you rely on yourself and your own understanding, guess what?
Oh,
yes.
Wait.
It Did I just say something?
No,
Okay.
absolutely, because I had a scripture already ready for that, and again, that it speaks to it. And this one you know very well. In Proverbs 3, 5, and 6 is trust in the Lord with all your heart, and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways, acknowledge Him, and He will direct your path. So that's an expectation you can have. You can guarantee on that, but you have to not lean on your own understanding.
Right. And that's the biggie. When we try to figure it out, that's when your brain just takes off and it takes a whole entire vacation on a subject that in all technicality, if you'd have just left it alone, it would have worked itself out. And I know for myself, because, we try to be as transparent as possible on this show, is that I had, and every now and again I catch myself still have that tendency to try and figure out a situation that doesn't need to be figured out. It may be confusing, it may be something that I don't understand, but I always remember if I don't understand it, that's when I need to back off of it. That's where I catch myself, because it may, something's working out on your behalf that maybe I am not meant to understand. Okay, and that's the same thing when you're going into your spiritual life. Sometimes people understand things spiritually that you may not understand.
Absolutely.
It doesn't mean that you can't ask a question, okay? Because even God invites you to ask a question when you open the Bible. If you don't understand the word, ask. But at the same time, what may be working out in my husband's life may not be something that I need to be included in just yet. So I need to understand that just as his wife, I'm still his partner. It doesn't diminish the love. It doesn't diminish him wanting to be with me. It's just that's what's working for him right now. And somewhere in there, he's going to bring that back. And guess what? He's going to tell me all about it. Okay? Whereas before, I used to get, as soon as I saw him, just, what you doing? How come I didn't know about it when you first started it? When were you going to tell me? How about those famous words? When were you going to tell me? Learning to understand how and why things work in your marriage is also a big key. Okay? Mm-hmm. And knowing that you don't have to be under your spouse 24/7, 365 for them to love you or include you or incorporate you in something, and understanding that not everything may be for you to be included in. Wow.
No. Answer this is from a woman's perspective, is that the expectation is that, okay, now that we're married, just talk about the being under each other all the time, okay, is that the expectation that, okay, now that we're married, my husband is going to be there and we're going to have our couple time, we're going to do this, we're going to do that? Are those things that women generally have expectations or believe that's the way it's going to be?
Believe and have expectations. Okay. Again, that goes right back to opening your mouth. If, your husband could have that job where he comes home, he is dog tired, all he's looking to do is eat, fall out in the chair, and he may fall asleep in the chair. And you may not get a hello, okay? Because he's so tired. I'm just throwing this out here. I'm not saying that that's what happens. I'm just throwing this out here. You need to, this is just me. He comes home, he's tired. Do you need anything? Hi, honey, do you need anything? Okay, and if he says no, guess what? That's not the end of the world. Well, let me go ahead and take your sweater, let me hang up your stuff. Okay, you go ahead and sit down in the chair, what do you want to eat? You're taking it to a level where he doesn't feel he has to come up. I'm not going to say do anything for you, but he sees that you see what he's going through right now.
But that speaks to being realistic and being accepting of who that person is and what that person is going through. And those are the things we talked about that were important to a successful marriage. Is being one of the things is being able to accept your mate, accept those things about your mate that they have about them that you cannot change.
Right.
You can't make be any different, not that it can't change, but you can't make it change. Mm-hmm. So sometimes just accepting, okay, hey, my man is just, he's tired. Oh, my lady, she's tired. She's had a hard day. I can't expect something from her at this time. Just accept the fact that this is what's going on right now and not try to understand and not try to make more of it. And, be realistic about what the situation is.
Right.
You know, but that.
I agree. But again, guess what that just all comes down to? Communication. You got you know, you could say that marriage is, you know, you'll be talking for the rest of your life. Pretty much. Pretty much. You know, because I know today my husband's not the same that he was 3 years ago. I'm not the same person I was 3 years ago. We're in a different spot than we were 3 years ago. And I'm not talking living wise. I'm not talking house wise. I'm talking, we're in a different spot spiritually, mentally, you know, from 3 years ago today. 3 years ago, our anniversary is, you know, it's our anniversary, but it's a completely different time set. I think I'm saying that right. My brain is up here going, okay.
What do you say about or if you've had expectations about certain things in our marriage, and how have you had to adjust any expectations?
I can tell you that some of my expectations were, and this may sound kind of stupid, but it's like I would expect you, and this was kind of a hot point for us at one point when we got the car, okay, and you got your job and we hadn't quite figured out the schedule yet, you know, your new job, we hadn't quite figured out the schedule. I expected you to pick me up every day. That was a hot button point for us, y'all, because our schedules are completely different, okay? And we had to, it was touchy for a while because you know you have to be up at dark 30, where I don't have to be up at dark 30. But I come home at dark 30, whereas you're already in the bed, knocked out, sleep, ready to go, okay? So it was a point of, you know, and I literally have to, what do you mean your husband's not picking you up? People didn't understand our dynamic. And it wasn't for me to understand. So my expectation had to change because I wasn't considering the fact that you had to get up early. I was just assuming that's your job. You're supposed to come pick up your wife.
So what in your mind did you had to adjust to come to that place?
I had to get out of that man's supposed to do this, woman's supposed to do that. That's what I had to get out of. And it's worked out. I mean, it's worked out. Whether I come home on the Metro bus or I, you know, get a ride home or I come home, either way, I'm home. Right. Either way, you make sure I'm home.
Right, and that's the thing we talk about, just being able to communicate the thought or the feeling, again, because that's the only way to make the adjustment, to make things really work, is to be able to communicate through it.
Right.
So you know what the expectations are, and the best way to resolve whatever, you know, conflict or, you know, whatever's there is causing any angst.
Right. And so that was, I know that was kind of like a hot button point for us for a minute because of the way our schedules work. So that's my little expectation thing. So how do I turn that around on you?
You don't.
Okay. And there you have it. No, okay. No, seriously. What about you? What's a situation that you had to?
Oh, so I'm definitely gonna have to be real.
Oh Lord, he acted like he's going into the vault and pulling out
the real and be transparent. You know, I'm gonna be real transparent. I'm gonna be honest. And I think a lot of men, and you know, a lot of men I've talked about the thing about the intimacy. You know, men want what they want when they want, you know, again, because they want to be pleased. And I know women have that same desire, but I think it's a little bit different for men. And I think I definitely, and I've always been sensitive to you and what it is you want and need and how you feel. So it wasn't so great an adjustment or having an expectation of you or wanting to be pleased all the time when I want to be pleased, that kind of thing. But to just understand your day, understand how you feel, understand what it is you're going through. And like I said, sometimes just being able to communicate or just let you know, okay, this is one of the nights I want to be intimate, or this is one of the nights that, you know, you just feeling too tired, too sick, to whatever, to say, okay, well, it ain't all about me. So I'm gonna have to make this adjustment, and you know, it is what it is. Be realistic about what those situation is and reduce my expectation because it's not about me this day. Tomorrow is about me.
I know that was coming. You know what? We're gonna have. That's all. I mentioned that in one of the expectations about intimacy. Intimacy in marriage is always I don't know why that's a hot button point, because this is somebody. How was it put to me? And I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way, but it's just like you get sex when you want. You don't have to go looking for it. You can come home, drop your purse, drop your keys, head right on up there, and do whatever you got to do. But understanding that there's other things that go on, like you just said, there's other things that go on. He may not be feeling well. I may not be feeling well. There may be something going on with the family, with the kids. We may have to go and run out the door, or, working overtime, or whatever the case may be. And, it's not that you want to, there was a movie where I remember they had to schedule. They pulled out a date book and, they're scheduling when you're ew. That should just be something that just happens, and you should just be in the moment. It should just be something that to be enjoyed, because that's a connection point.
Absolutely. But again, just being realistic makes it work again. It doesn't add stress.
Yes.
To the situation. It doesn't have stress to your relationship or any strain to your relationship. With having an unrealistic expectation. We got to temper those expectations, and I got some things on managing expectations that I definitely want to get out before we finish. But I wanted to read, and I've been reading this daily devotional about marriage, the lifelong journey, and I wanted to read this if I could, while we got some time before we go a little further.
Yes.
Okay, and this one is titled "Tie Yourself to the Mast." It says, let me need my glasses.
Well, while you read that, I'll be right back.
Okay, it asks the question, are you happy in your marriage? If so, you might be interested to learn that 2/3 of unhappy couples who stay together say their relationship is significantly better within 5 years.
Okay, so we got 2 years to go.
Okay. to achieve that, it'll require you and your spouse to tie yourself to the mast. In Odyssey, Homer's epic work, which is a book called the Odyssey, you have to read that. It's an excellent book. Odysseus encountered the mysterious island of Sirens. The creatures inhabiting these islands possessed enchanting voices that distracted the sailors from their journey, imprisoning them forever. Odysseus' crew passed by, the creatures sang their beautiful song. As Odysseus' crew passed by, the creatures sang their beautiful song. But Odysseus knew the dangers. He put wax in the crew's ears and ordered that he be tied to the mast, tied securely to the ship's mast to prevent him from being lured away by the seductive melody. Odysseus also commanded they stay true to their course, no matter how bad the circumstances seem. Marriages in our culture have become more transient. Too often we'll throw out relationships at the first sign of trouble. But God created marriages to be a covenant. And that's one thing we talked about, before, the fact that God created marriage and it's a covenant relationship. It says God created marriage to be a covenant, a deeply binding commitment designed to help us weather our most difficult circumstances. But it requires us to be tied to the mast. And you know who the mast is. The mast is being tied to God. That one true stabilizing thing in our life. You have to dismiss the voices that try to lure you away from your marriage or convince you that divorce is an easy answer to your troubles. If your marriage is unhappy, it's not too late. Commit your relationship to a course of growth and healing. With hard work and faithfulness to God, you and your spouse may discover the relationship you've always dreamed of. So again, this just speaks to staying tied to the mast, being tied to God, and being focused on the path that you're heading in your relationship. And I thought that was an outstanding, you know, message in this devotional to be reminded of. Staying the course,
Mhm.
you know, not letting the distractions pull you off course, and you know, stay tied to the man, staying, you know, founded foundationally in God.
Most definitely. We keep talking about that third strand, being connected, all of those good things. So I'm glad you brought that up here. I
Yeah.
really, really am. Anyway, I just got back, but I knew my husband was going to talk about something. I can figure it out. I can always figure it out. But excuse me. So we talked about your expectation, my expectation. We've mentioned expectations that we've read on and all these other things, and especially in redefining. I want to talk about this redefinition. Because it talks about, this is coming from Focus on the Family, one of the places that I really like to go and find some knowledge when it comes to the word. Okay. So it says the closer we can get to we can get our expectations to line up with the truth, the less hurt we experience. We want to see our marriages set up for success, right? So start by redefining your expectations. Okay. So you got to identify the source of your expectations. Expectations within marriage can fall into different areas, ranging from physical fulfillment to household responsibilities. Did we not just say that?
Absolutely.
Who's going to cook? Who's going to plan for Valentine's Day? Who's going to do the grocery shopping? Who's going to oversee financial matters? All of these different things come in. So when these questions are asked with respect, they can help establish marital roles, and responsibilities. When one spouse expects the other to fulfill those roles without first explaining their expectations, then together reaching a resolution, their once peaceful home can become a toxic environment. Did we not talk about toxic relationships?
That's it. But we also talked about defining roles.
Yes.
As well.
Yes. And it says that inevitably will lead to resentment and hurt. So getting verbally out of sync with your spouse is an all too common struggle in marriage. Okay. It takes two. You are not in the marriage by yourself. Okay. Two people to create a misunderstanding, not just, but technically one person can create that misunderstanding and then just drag the other one into the misunderstanding, okay? We think the problem is with the other person, but in reality, he or she is just a mirror that exposes the inconsistencies in each of us.
Wow.
Wow.
Like
now,
that.
The other one, and we hear this constantly, don't wait for a soulmate, okay? Marriage consists of two flawed human beings. If you believe your current or future spouse will be ready-made and the ready-made soulmate, you may tend to wrongfully expect problems to solve themselves. A soulmate is someone that you become.
Right. Yeah, I was just thinking that again, because you build yourself to that place where your souls are connected like that.
That is why I hit on this. A soulmate is someone you become. It is a process that takes place in marriage over time. You don't start at soulmate, okay? If you look at the marriages of the people that are in your family, look at how they connect. Look at how they talk. Look at how they look at each other. They work towards that. There were goo-goo eyes in the beginning. Do not get me wrong. There were smiles and giggles and all of that. But look at the difference between the smiles and giggles now. Because if Uncle Ed at 70 years old can still make Aunt Edna giggle the way she did when she was 20, come on now. Okay. Anyway, the faulty point of view easily shifts the focus towards planning a blissful wedding day rather than preparing for a lifetime of companionship. I've been saying that. It's not about the party, okay? We all entertain the thought that we should be able to get along with this person who has captured our heart because there is something special between us. While this is true most of the time, it is nearly impossible to connect your life to another individual and not have significant disagreements. So you can't expect everything to be peaches and cream every day of your life. Now, I mentioned this when you asked me about my expectation. Taking the burden off your spouse. Okay?
Yeah.
To set your marriage up for success, start by identifying your ultimate source of fulfillment. Humans are limited beings, and true fulfillment can only come through a relationship with God. Absolutely. There's a reason Jesus called himself the way, the truth, and the light.
That is so true.
John 14:6. If you are waiting on someone else, I'm going to repeat this. If you are waiting on someone else to make your life meaningful and happy, You will almost certainly be gravely disappointed. Man will disappoint you in a hot second.
I realized that some years back,
Mhm.
when I first really got saved, God was revealing some things to me, and that point in scripture definitely was one of those things that was a true revelation to me. This understanding that true fulfillment can only be found in God. So trying to find it in drugs, alcohol, sex, your job, money, your kids,
The
whatever,
club.
it is never going to it is never going to truly fulfill you
Right.
like the relationship that you have in Christ.
Right.
There's nothing in your life that's going to give you that.
Right.
I don't care how much you love your kids are going to disappoint you, fail you, but God cannot fail.
Right.
He
Right.
keeps all his promises.
Notice all I can say is right.
That's,
okay.
but there's a truth. What you get from a relationship with God, you can't get from anybody else. You can't get from your mate. You can't get from your mother. You can't get from your father. You can't get from your child. You can't get from your job. You can't get from no amount of money. There's nothing that's going to give you that true, complete fulfillment like a relationship in Christ.
Yes. Now, again, I'm going to tell you, if you're waiting for someone else to make your life meaningful and happy, you will almost certainly be gravely disappointed. Says the authors Todd Clements and Kim Baer of First Comes Love, Then What? Okay. Then it says, when you learn how to truly be happy alone, you'll begin to be the most successful in every relationship. Again, because you've got to learn to be happy with you. You got to put up with you before you ask somebody else to put up with you.
There's definitely some things you need to understand about yourself. And I was just talking about that with a friend of mine recently, just talking about how after having been in some relationships, one of the things I had to do was step away from relationships for a while and just be with me, learn some things about me that I needed to truly know, because I found myself in the same kind of relationship over and over again, dealing with some of the same stuff. And I couldn't blame the other person. I had to look at myself. So I couldn't do that while being in a relationship. So I had to remove myself from relationships and learn some things about myself, what it really was I wanted, needed, liked, desired, what made me happy in a relationship, what I need, from another person. And that was a defining moment in my life, and how to deal with relationships, was learning about me. So I think that, again, I believe that's where it has to begin. It has to start there.
It says research has found this to be true. Okay, if you're not happy being alone, then there are going to be issues. Okay, but the Institute of Family Studies out of Australia says the longest married couples were pragmatic. They didn't expect perfect marriage and focused on enjoying their relationship while accommodating their differences. So recognize that you're always going to be developing as an individual, then look for opportunities to strengthen the marriage through the new perspective. Again, you're constantly growing as you take this journey with marriage. Now, redefining can be easier than you think, because a lot of people know I got to put in all this work and all that. No, it's very simple. And they give you a couple things to do. We might want to try this out. Right? Each of you makes a list of the things their fathers did around the house and all the responsibilities their mothers saw after. Show your list to each other and discuss why you think these respective roles existed in your parents' marriages. Explain to each other how you expect roles and responsibilities to play out in your own marriage, and then reach a common resolution, and if necessary, compromise on some of the expectations so you can move forward with a stronger and more unified marriage.
Absolutely. And that's one of the things we talked about last week as well, that has to happen is compromise.
Yeah.
You have to be, because you both are not going to get your way all the time, and there has to be a place in the middle somewhere.
But see how amazing it is that these things fall in line with each other. Everything we've talked about, and we're without even thinking about it, we're touching on each one of those subjects that we've talked about previously. They're so important in my perspective. They're important that you do these things. I know coming up and being a young girl and thinking about it wouldn't have made no sense to me. I would have been, why I gotta do all of that? I'm just supposed to put the ring on my finger, and I'm supposed to be the happy ever. not knowing, okay? And I think that's a aspect that needs to be explained to young women when it comes to marriage. Just like when it comes to having a baby, it's not a doll baby. It's something that's gonna kick, scream, cry, poop, pee, do all those other acts, be fed, run around, get away from you, all of it. You're not expecting that. You're just looking for something you want to dress up. Many mothers have that perspective. So why not explain to our young men and our young women the value of marriage? Okay, the value of having that person that you can journey through life with,
Yeah.
and learn and grow and become, different and better people than, out here going, no, I gotta keep my game fresh. I gotta do all this. I gotta do all of that.
Yeah, but also understanding that a lot of people come from broken families, so they haven't
Yes.
seen those examples, and a single mother or a single father sometimes can't give you what it is they don't have.
Mm.
If they don't know, haven't experienced it, they can't give you that wisdom and all of the reasoning behind, what makes a successful marriage or the reason for it, because they don't know themselves. So it's difficult sometimes to pass it on. And that, again, that's where understanding and being realistic in whoever your mate is, because if your mate comes from that type of family, you have to understand that they don't know. So you have to learn and grow through these things. And like we talked
And
about
get to
over and
learn
over
what it
again.
is that they don't know and don't
Right,
understand.
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's what I was about to say. The biggest part of to learn and understand that is communication. You just expectation is not going to get you there.
Right.
It's not going to get you an understanding. So you got to go beyond, and you got to be able to explain the expectation and why it's important to you for that other person to understand and try to, change or mold or compromise into that situation where you both can be happy about, whatever the situation may be.
Now, we've got about 10 minutes left, and I want to hit on this, and this is about God's expectations for marriage. And I'll share this on our page, but I wanted to just pick out the parts that it was talking about. It says he's going to speak to the men first. So how should you rethink your marriage expectations to enjoy God's blessings? So speaking to the husbands, men, God designed the husband to fulfill certain duties that can be described in Scripture using 3 words: lover, learner, leader. Okay. God commands you to love your wife like Christ loved the church, Ephesians 5:25. Okay, I want you all to go to Covenant Connection to read the rest of this, because I don't want to get into reading it, because then we'll get in a whole other discussion with that. Learner, God also commands you to learn your wife. 1 Peter 3:7 tells us to live with our wives in understanding. We just mentioned that earlier in the show. The third one is leader. Leadership is hard. Sometimes sometimes as men, we fail in leadership because we try to be dictators who build little kingdoms in our home. Okay? Jesus described leadership in Matthew 20, verses 20 through 26. Okay?
Can you read that one?
It's not out here for I will go find. Can you find it? Matthew 20, verses 20 through 26. Okay? And it says, men, we have to admit we tend to focus on ourselves and what we want. Please ask the Lord to help you think about and do your responsibility. Okay? So my husband's finding Matthew 20, 26. And then we're going to talk to the ladies real quick about how the Lord helps you. Okay? Did you find it, babe?
I did.
Okay, go for it.
Okay. And this is titled A Mother's Request. It says, Then the mother of Zebedee's son came to Jesus with her sons, and kneeling down, I asked a favor of him. Kneeling down, asked a favor of him. What is it you want? He asked. She said, Grant that one of these 2 sons of mine sit at your right and the other sit at your left in your kingdom. You know that what you are asking. You don't know what you are asking, Jesus said to them. Can you drink of the cup I'm going to drink? We can, they answered. Jesus said to them, You will indeed drink from my cup. But to sit at my right or left is not for me to grant. These places belong to those for whom they have been prepared by my Father. When the 10 heard about this, they were indignant. Who were these 2 brothers, Jesus? Jesus called them together and said, You know that the rulers of the Gentiles lord over them, and their hired may high officials exercise authority over them. Not so with you. Instead, whoever wants to become great among you must be a servant.
Now,
And that's where it stops at 26. Right.
Doesn't talk about that in leadership, though. In order to understand how to be a leader, you've got to learn how to serve. Okay, so the leader is the servant of all. That's how this whole entire paragraph is ended. The leader is the servant of all. Okay, so for ladies, the Lord also helps you. Again, there are 3 words that provide a helpful summary of your responsibility: follower, finisher, and fan. Let me continue. Follower. If your husband is supposed to lead, then it makes sense that the wife is to follow. Okay? We realize that this makes some women uneasy. They don't want to hear this, especially if you've seen or experienced godless leadership. So, it doesn't mean you're unimportant, insignificant, or unable to voice your opinion. It means you're placing yourself under his leadership. 1 Peter 3, 1 through 6, and Ephesians 5, 22.
Right, and that erases the power struggle.
Right. Okay. And like I said, I'm going to share this so you all can continue to read it. Okay. Next is finisher. In Genesis 2, 18 through 24, we are reminded it was not good to be alone. While God gives special grace to those he has called to be single, the normal course of action is to be with someone. Okay. You bring to the marriage many gifts, skills, and abilities. You should use them to honor Christ and encourage your husband. He needs you more than he is often willing to admit. Okay, man. Ephesians 5:33. Let me go find that real quick. Ephesians 5:33. Command you to respect your husband. Husbands do many things for their wives, just as wives do many things for their husbands. And the more you show appreciation and value for your husband and demonstrate he has been good to you, and it doesn't mean on what he spends on the bling bling, it means in everything else, the more you honor Christ and encourage your blessing in your marriage. Okay? So if you and your spouse seek by God's grace to live out these roles, then your marriage is going to be filled with love and encouragement, working together no matter what pressures you face on the outside.
Ooh, Lord, have mercy. And this is what we talked about last week. You'll remember after I read it. This is Ephesians 5:33. It says, however, each one of you also must love his wife as he loves himself, and a wife must respect her husband. Remember we were talking about how important respect is for a man?
Yep, big time. And you know what the funny thing is? And remember, you've asked me what it was in my getting to understand the Bible and what God had it for me was when I finally understood what Ephesians, those parts of Ephesians meant, because I was going through a domestic relationship at that time. So those verses were constantly being thrown in my face, like I was to be subjugated, and I was, it's like, if you don't, I gotta, what is that, rule with the iron fist kind of.
Right. No.
So I was, and when I finally understood, and I told the pastor when he was here, I said, you helped me to finally understand exactly what that meant. And it did not diminish me as a woman. It made me understand my role as a woman and made me understand myself better as a female. Not that, I'm not becoming a doormat. That's not what it said. It's just saying when you let the man lead, when you let the man do what he's created to do, he stands under that umbrella. So why would you not want to be covered by the same umbrella? I'm just saying.
Absolutely. I mean, because God is a divine order, again, created, the umbrella for us, and he created us to be the umbrella for our wives and our family. So that's the order that God has designed things to be under. So that is absolutely true.
And that's to me, that just made perfect sense. So we got about 5 minutes left. Is there any little tidbits or quips you want to put in?
Yes, I definitely wanted to make sure that I got in, as I was researching this, it got some tips on managing expectations. And you might want to write this down too. I don't know how much you would get, but it says managing expectations. First, it says it comes down to realism and flexibility. And we talked about that, being real and being flexible, being able to compromise. 2, it says keep an optimistic outlook and a positive perspective.
And positive perspective.
Yes.
Okay.
Number 3, it says with less emotional volatility, marriage becomes more stable. So sometimes we have to remove the emotional volatility of
Repeat it.
situations.
Repeat it.
It says with less emotional volatility,
Mm-hmm.
marriages become more stable.
Okay. I just want to make sure I miss that word.
Okay.
Next.
Number 4, it says acknowledging natural drop-offs helps expectations become more grounded in reality.
Repeat it.
Okay, again, number 4, acknowledging natural drop-offs helps expectations become more grounded in reality. And those natural drop-offs are those things that we go through that we naturally, it's going to naturally happen. We're not going to be in love the exact same way we were the first day we met. And,
Exactly.
you know, that passion and fire and how we make love to each other is not going to always be the same,
Exactly.
you know, 10, 15 years down the line. So those natural drop-offs are going to happen. Just understanding those, it helps you become more grounded in the reality of what the situation is.
Right.
Okay, number 5, when we are realistic, we are less likely to experience disappointment and more likely to be positive about our partner and our marriage.
And you can repeat it.
Okay, again, when we are realistic, we are less likely to experience disappointment and more likely to be positive about our partner and our marriage.
Okay.
And this side piece is just, you know, profound to me. This last part, and this is not so much on managing expectations, but it says when based on God's word, our expectations will never fail to be met.
We've been saying that kind of all through the whole entire thing. When
Absolutely.
based on God's word,
Our expectations will never fail to be met.
and yes, I got all of that, y'all. It is Covenant Connection. Yay! Okay. Anyway, thank you, honey, for those encouraging words. I'm surprised at myself. I got them all, but I did get them all of them. But you know, a lot of that is what we've discussed and what we've gone through in this show, in making sure that, you know, people understand that expectations, we all have them. You know, we all have them. That's just it. We have them. We have expectations when we go to our job. We have expectations when we go to the store. We have expectations when we go to a restaurant, or we go to a movie, or, you know, we're going to see something that, you know, we've heard talked about, and this, that, and the other.
Yeah, in one area, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but one area we do that, and I see so many people are you know, dealing with people in the hospital, doctors, nurses, and dealing with police. You have expectations of who they are, what they're supposed to do, and how they're supposed to do it. And sometimes we don't have a realistic expectation because these are human beings dealing with tough jobs, and you don't know what they've gone through within that point of the day for them to have the sensitivity and all that we believe they need to have with us. And those bedside manners that we talk about dealing with doctors.
Yes.
You know, and police, that community relations.
Yes. Well, you know me, I like to give definitions.
Yes.
So the definition of expectation: a strong belief that something will happen or be the case in the future. A belief that someone will or should achieve something. And the synonyms for it are supposition, assumption, and we know what assuming does. Belief, presupposition, presumption, conjecture, surmise, reckoning, calculation, prediction, forecast, projection, and there's more, okay? The archaic definition of expectation is one's prospects of inheritance, which is kind of interesting, okay? Definitely archaic. But the thing about expectation is that with expectation, you're waiting for something. You're waiting for something to come about. You're waiting for something to be, or you have a preconceived notion of what you think should be happening, okay? And we discussed that during the show. But the one thing that I do want to point out, and I don't know if you have a major thought for the day, but I kind of, being that this was my little puppy, I figured I better come up with an answer.
Go with your thing. Your thing.
Marriage expectation. And there's so many things, okay, that you could put. Expectations of marriage relation before. The assumptions can't be made in life. If a partner expects that the other will change after marriage, she faces disappointment. So when you're in the dating stage before marriage, you must realize the expectations of a would-be spouse so that you may live a happy married life in the future. You must know that successful marriage requires efforts and joy on both sides. Knowing the expectations, you may overcome your weakness and learn to grow better or grow together. Why did I read that? Because the thing that stuck out to me in this is that a successful marriage requires efforts and joy on both sides. Joy in your marriage can just be so uplifting. You will laugh together. You will cry together. You will build things together. You can stand by and watch your husband be domestic while you go handle the hammer, okay? And vice versa. It doesn't diminish your roles in the marriage. It just makes the journey more fun. So talk to your spouse. Find out what it is that they may be thinking when it comes to your role in your marriage. And then, like the situation said, sit down and talk about it. Why did your mom or your dad think that way? Why did your mom or your dad think that way? And how can you two incorporate some of the wisdom tidbits from their marriages into your own to make it a happy journey for the rest of your life? So don't go in with preconceived expectations of marriage. Open your mouth. What's the song say? Open your mouth, say something. Okay. There's a gospel song that says that. Open your mouth, say something, okay? Because even God wants to hear from you. God may have brought you together and you're under the covenant of marriage before God, but you know what? God still needs to hear from you in this marriage. So even if you stop for a moment and you grab your husband or your wife's hand and say, let's pray for a second, okay? You may not have to say anything, you may say a lot, but you know what? It's all done in love, as I look at my husband, okay? So that is what I wanted to share with you all. We're coming down towards the end. Thank you for being here. Keep it locked on WMSKOnlineradio.com. Listen to all of the shows that are here. Cheryl Underwood, Late Night Cupcaking, Spiritual Nourishment, Teen Truth, The Vault, Open Wide with Neek, Uncut Sports Talk, Between Friends, a lot going on here, so just make sure you keep it locked. Drop us your show idea by going to the website, clicking on Contact Us. We'll get back with you. If you want to sponsor a segment of this show or any show or are interested in radio marketing, go to the website, click on Advertise, drop us a line, and our marketing team will get back with you. But enjoy the beautiful spring day that's outside. Do something fun this weekend. If you're hiding Easter eggs, hide them well, because these kids will find them no matter where you put them, okay? And as we always say here, we love you.
And there's absolutely nothing you can do about it.
Not a doggone thing, but you know what? We love that you are here. Enjoy your Good Friday. Keep it locked with us, and we will see you next week. Have a blessed weekend and Resurrection Sunday. Talk to y'all later. Bye.
God bless.
All right, party peoples. We are out. Please make sure that you will do a watch party with this later. And please make sure you go over and check out the YouTube video where you see us live in action in the studio. Other than that, have a wonderful Good Friday. Have a wonderful Passover. And have a wonderful Resurrection Sunday. We'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Well,
Yes, it is. Thank you, Lord. Thank you.
lost another 6 pounds. I had to give her a dancing gift. Mm-hmm. I get to see the scale next week on Thursday, so I'm not going to even think about the scale. I enjoyed the walk from here yesterday. I can tell you that. That was a nice walk. Got the heart rate up, all that good stuff. So,
You really enjoyed your feet walking on your own.
my feet would have been perfect in my back. I was spending $170, so I can spend a lot.
Spend $600 on my seat.
I thought that was already paid for.
That was $1,100.
Right.
So you thought I paid $1,100 all at one time?
Yeah. Oh, okay. My mistake.
Don't give them assumptions again. You know what assumptions do? That assumption made you think.
Rex Hayes.
The car insurance payment is already done.